Hey everyone, I am your astrologer Wonder Girl, helping you to live in tune with the natural cycles of the moon. This is your astrology horoscope for the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, which will occur on Thursday, July 13th, 2022 at 2:37 p.m. Eastern Time or 11:37 a.m. Pacific Time, depending upon which part of the country you're in or world. Here. Now, what I think is going on at this time period for this full moon in Capricorn is that we are trying to move forward in life on some new adventures that have recently arrived here that we're feeling more up to the task to pursue. But even though we're trying to move forward on those, we're still feeling stuck in a lot of ways and unable to move them forward, which is really because we're still struggling to adopt a different way of life that is slower, more stable, and more secure here, that we're going to have to more fully understand our resistances and triggers to about that slower way of life and come to terms with before we move forward doing anything else or adding anything on top of where we currently are. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you would like to hear more about that, please stay tuned because we're going to hop into it right now. In order to get started, what I always like to do first is to place it on the chart so that you can see what it is that I'm referring to in this video and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This video is for the full moon in Capricorn, which is what this chart is set for. I know that because I've got the moon here in Capricorn, 21 degrees, exactly opposite the sun over here in Cancer, 21 degrees. And when the moon exactly opposes the sun, that is what is considered a full moon here. What are full moons all about? Well, full moons are all about stepping into something that we've been working towards for quite some time, especially because that is when the moon is the furthest away here from the sun. Okay, not only are full moons about that here, but they're also typically too about getting some kind of wisdom, understanding, insight, illumination that we didn't get before as well, because that's also when the moon is the brightest in the sky here too. And with it being a function of an opposition, that's what a full moon is. It typically is about choices, important choices that are needed to be made as well, especially with it being in the sign of Capricorn. Okay, now what are we stepping more fully into at this time, getting some understanding on and making choices about? Capricorn. What is Capricorn? Well, maybe the first thing that I'll note is that Capricorn is a Saturn-ruled sign, which does tend to be about restriction in some kind of way. Now, not all full moon and Capricorns are about the restriction or hit the restriction part heavy here, but definitely this time with some other alignments going on, that is a huge thing that's coming up here. Okay, feeling restricted. Not only that, but I should also note too that Capricorn is a lot about managing things better, especially when it comes to our emotions, with the moon being involved here and the sun in Cancer. Not only that, but Capricorn too is also about the long-term result. What is the best result long-term, and the best, I don't want to say behaviors that will lead to the best outcome down the line. So what does that mean to me now, to put it all together? What that means to me is that at this time here, we are getting more insight, maybe that's what I'll say, on what's restricting us from moving forward, and on what the best plan of action, the best strategy is in order to move onwards. Not only at this full moon are we getting insight and understanding into what is still restricting us and preventing us from moving forward here and how to do it, but we're also getting insight on what choices need to be made in order for us to move forward in the best way, and how we can manage our situations and our emotions properly and accordingly in order to bring everything together as we move onwards. Okay, and I think that's it here that I want to say for now about the main themes here of this full moon in Capricorn. Before I go more into detail though about those themes in particular though, and how they are working out at this time, I do just want to go backwards in time for a minute before I go forwards. And I want to go backwards in time for a minute in order to give you more context about how we got here and about why those themes I just described are now coming up in order to be felt, lived through, or experienced in some way, shape, or form. And to go back in time, I'm going to go back to the last solar eclipse, which was a new moon in Taurus, the very, very end. I think it was like the last day of April of this year, 2022. Okay, what was that all about? Well, new moons are all about new beginnings. Solar eclipses make that a big deal. Taurus is a lot about abundance and fertility. It's also a lot about our physical environment here in our senses, being an earth sign. So what does that mean to me? It means to me that in April of 2022, I think we started to embark more fully on some new adventure and some new and better chapter in life that we'd really been working towards for the past few years, that we felt was more abundant for us. And we started to see it come together in a way that we could see, touch, smell, feel, taste, etc., which was very, very, very good. Okay. But even though that was very beautiful coming together in April of this year, I think 2 weeks after that, as we got to the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio here in May of this year, 2022, we started to run into blockages with this new beautiful experiences that had recently started to arrive, which was very, very, very frustrating here because we didn't know what to do or how to move things forward. That was hard. Okay. But even though that was hard, I think we started to tune into our intuition, or our intuition just started speaking to us, whether we wanted to hear it or not. And I think what our intuition began to tell us is that the reason why we were stuck and unable to move forward with these new blessings that had now arrived is because we didn't have the right approach. We didn't have the right approach. We were still trying to do these new things by an old standard. And the old standard was one that was fast, that was tumultuous, that was a bit hard, a bit heavy-handed, and that the new stuff needed a new hand, a new way of dealing with it, which is a bit softer, a bit slower here. That's less tumultuous, and that's more subdued and more self-reliant here on ourselves and what we are capable of here. Okay, that we started to realize. And it was hard for us to accept this realization from our intuition. But around that new moon in Gemini, 2 weeks after that, which I believe was also in May of this year, 2022, we then started to accept it. We then started to say, okay, intuition, okay, spirit, I get it. New experiences need new behaviors that are slower, more stable, more secure in order to sustain them here as we move forward, which was very, very good. But as we started to get on board with spirit and these new things in this slower way of life, I think we then realized that there were some things in our physical environment from the past with relationships and money in particular that were not in alignment with the slower way of life and the more self-reliant and calmer and more subdued lifestyle that is now required in order for us to move forward, which made us feel frustrated. And because of that, at the next full moon, which I think was now in June of this year, June in 2022, the next full moon in Sagittarius, we then made adjustments with the current relationships and money situations that were in our lives to get it going slower and to get it going in this different, more self-reliant, calmer way that it is that we needed in order to move forward, which I think was very, very, very good and a huge relief here. And because that was very good, at that next new moon, which was in Cancer, I believe, also in June of 2022, yes, here, right about here, at that next new moon in Cancer, we started to feel great. We started to feel like, good, we're in a new experience of life. We've got the new behaviors. We've got the new patterns. We fix things with relationships and money accordingly. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. We're ready to go more here into some new and better experience of life in order to move it onwards, which I think was a good thing or a good feeling. But even though we were feeling 2 weeks ago at that new moon in Cancer good, ready to go more fully in some new and better experience of life, I think we ran into blockages yet again, especially at the first quarter moon in Libra a week ago, and especially now with the full moon in the full moon in Capricorn. We're running into blockages yet again, still not able to move forward in the way that we might like to bring more new and better experiences into our lives, which is hard, which is frustrating, and which is requiring us to go inwards to now seek illumination and seek understanding about why we're triggered and what the blockages are, and about what is the best way to better manage the emotional triggers and handle them so that they don't get the best of us, and so that we can do what needs to be done as we move forward, which really is this slower and more deliberate way of life as we move onwards. Okay, and that's it. Because that's it, I'm now just going to repeat those things one more time without the astrological jargon so that you can get a better sense of what I think is going on here. So let me do that now. What I think is going on here at this full moon in Capricorn is that we're trying to continue moving forward on a new and better experience of life, and in a new and better way that's slower and more deliberate now that we're getting it. But we're still running into roadblocks yet again when it comes to moving forward on new and better experiences of life, and they're still not coming together in the way we might like, which is causing us to feel very frustrated and very restricted, and to seek illumination and guidance and understanding on why this is still happening and on what needs to be done here in order for us to overcome these blockages and restrictions and to move onwards. Okay. And that's it. Because that's it, I'm now going to move forward so that you can see more specifically what the astrological aspects are here happening at this time here and at this full moon, in order to give you, just more clarity and more details on how this is going to play out. What do I want to start with? Well, I guess I'm going to start back here. Obviously, at the full moon in Capricorn, let me place it on the chart. Here's the moon in Capricorn opposing the sun in Cancer. I think the first thing that I really want to point out is the fact that this full moon is in a square to Chiron in Aries, which is stationing to go retrograde in the next few days. So we've got the moon here, square Chiron, and also the sun, square Chiron as well. Okay, this is a challenge, not only because the full moon is in Capricorn, which is Saturn ruled, which can be a bit restricting, but especially because it's square Chiron stationing to go retrograde here, and Chiron is difficult, and the station retrograde is inflaming a little bit of the difficulty here and the frustration to make it more fully felt, I think, in a lot of ways. So this is very, very hard. What is the difficulty? Well, again, at this time, in the astrology, we want to move forward on a new and better experience of life to bring more new and better things here into existence with relationships and money, more new relationships, new money sources, or just the next level, to take our relationships and money to the next level here. And we are feeling like we cannot do it. Like something is stopping us, like we're feeling restricted, Capricorn, and unable to move forward, Aries, because Aries is an action sign. It's a doer. It likes to make things happen. Here, we're feeling like we're unable to do it here, and like we're feeling very, very stuck here and having to slow back down again to like a snail's pace, which is hard, bringing up a lot of inner triggers, because Chiron can have to do that, frustration here, and anger. Aries skews anger at ourselves, why we're feeling stuck, maybe even angry at other people who we perceive are stopping us from moving forwards here. That can be quite hard. Now, why, right? Why is this happening? Why are we in a new experience of life and we have new beliefs, habits, patterns, behaviors, going slower and more deliberate, and still feeling stuck, restricted, unable to move forward here with the Aries influence, and now angry and triggered at ourselves and other people? Why is this happening? Well, I do think a lot of it has to do with the Cancer influence here, where the sun is and Mercury, which are again in the square to Chiron here. What is that about? Cancer is a lot about grounding things, being the lowest part of the chart, to give them a firm foundation, roots here from which to grow. So what is the issue? Why are we feeling stuck? It is not because of other people and things, even if you think it is here. It is not because of other people and things. It is because something within ourselves, our soul, our emotions especially, is not right still and where it needs to be. What exactly within ourselves is not right and where it needs to be here, and is not grounded and rooted enough? Well, in my honest opinion, especially with the Mars and Taurus, what is still not right emotionally and within our soul is this slower and more deliberate and more self-reliant here, and more stable and secure way of life. That's what is not right within our soul. We haven't fully, permanently, deeply ingrained it within our being, so that we just live it naturally. We haven't fully done that. And I think part of us is still rejecting this slower way of life emotionally, and is wanting to jump the gun and go back, revert backwards to old habits, old behaviors, and old lifestyles, especially because Cancer is a very nostalgic sign here that can obsess over the past or old things. Okay, so that, I think, is what we need to understand first, okay, because it's going to be important to everything else I'm going to say. So I'm going to repeat that now. That's what we need to understand first. We're in a new and better experience of life, and we've got new and better habits and behaviors to do it, which are slower and more deliberate here and more discerning, but we are still, at this full moon in Cancer, running into issues moving forward, bringing more new relationships and money into our life, or adding on top of the new relationships and money we already have, which is making us frustrated, angry, upset, all the bad emotions here. And the reason why is not because something or someone else is stopping you. No one is stopping you from doing things you want to do. It's because something is not right within ourselves and within our soul. And the thing that's not right is that deep down within our subconscious, Cancer is like that. A part of us is still rejecting this new way of life, this slower, more discerning, more stable and secure way of life, and doesn't really like it or doesn't want to do it anymore, or thought that it was just a thing of the past few months and now it's a new time and it's over here, and hasn't fully gotten the picture. That is very hard. Okay. Why on top of that? Now, why are the emotions out of sorts here when it comes to going about life in a slower, more stable, secure, discerning kind of way, which is not going away, I think, for at least another 6 months? Why are our emotions out of sorts? Well, when we're talking about emotions, right? Cancer has to do with our emotions. What are Cancer concerns? Cancer needs safety. Cancer needs comfort. That's what Cancer needs. It needs to feel safe and comfortable. And when it doesn't feel safe or comfortable, it doesn't like it. So what does that mean to me? It means to me that part of the reason why here we are having difficulty moving forward into a new experience of life is not only because a part of us, especially the emotional part, still hasn't fully rooted and accepted and embraced this slower and more deliberate way of life, which is creating the outer tension in our external environment. But the reason why our emotions are still rejecting this slower way of life is because it doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel comfortable to go slow and to be more deliberate or discerning about who and what you do. It doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel comfortable. Okay, Cancer, emotions. Why doesn't it feel safe and why doesn't it feel comfortable? Well, as long as you are going slowly, right, and being more discerning, you don't know what the end result is. You don't know what the end result is. You don't know what you're doing, or you don't know where it's going to end up. And if you don't know where it's going to end up, and if you don't have the certainty of how this thing is going to play out, because it's going to take forever to play out, you don't feel safe because you don't know, well, maybe it's going to work, maybe it's going to not. Maybe I'm going to get this thing that's going to make me, maybe, that doesn't feel safe. Not only does it not feel safe, but it doesn't feel comfortable to have to wait to figure things out about when they're going to come. It doesn't feel comfortable to have to wait here. That I think is very, very hard. Okay. Creating this inner tension here and creating this blockage, preventing us from doing these things that it is that we need to do. There's part of us that's saying, I realize I'm in a new and better experience of life. I want to do more new and better things with relationships and money here, but I don't want to go as slow and as deliberate and as self-reliant as I need to go, because it feels safe and uncomfortable, and I want to jump the gun and revert back to old tendencies when that's not what needs to happen here. The same, maybe I should bring it out too with the self-reliant. There's something within the energy too where we need to be more dependent on ourselves and not on other people. Forget what they're doing. More on yourself. And that also doesn't feel safe and comfortable, because a lot of times when you're dependent on yourself, you don't feel like you have a safety net. Well, it's just me doing me. If I do something wrong, so a lot of issues there. That's very, very hard. So what needs to happen now? Let's move on to some other alignments. Well, what else is going on is that this full moon in Capricorn here is making an opposition to Mercury, right? Not just the sun, but also an opposition to Mercury. So what is this about? Well, Mercury is a lot about thinking and talking here. Thinking and talking. It's also a lot about our emotions, being in Cancer, and because that's what the main issue is. So what that means to me here is that, yeah, we got these issues, trying to move forward, new and better experiences of life here, but still stuck. Because part of us, whether we realize it or not, is rejecting this slower and more stable, discerning way of life because it doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel comfortable here, making us frustrated and angry and mad at everything else. What needs to happen? We need to slow down, let's say that, and take the time to think and talk about our feelings here, and about our soul, and about our emotional issues here, and about what is off within the emotions, so that we can more fully make conscious those fears I just mentioned, and more fully get to the bottom of those. Not only do we need to slow down and take the time to think and talk about our emotions and what the real issue is to get to the bottom of that. But maybe I also need to say, we need to not engage in arguments with other people here. Cancer is about ourselves and our emotions and our soul. We need to not get mad at other people because it's not because of them. If you're frustrated, it's really not because of them. It's because there's something in you that's triggered by that external manifestation. So there's a need to slow down, not get in arguments, not make this about other people, and go inwards to think and talk about your own triggers to make them more conscious. Okay, not only is that the answer, but Cancer again is a very nurturing influence correlating to the moon, the mother, the divine feminine, all of that. So not only is there a need to slow down, to not get mad, but to think and talk about yourself and your own emotions and your own triggers and what's the issue there, but to be kind to yourself and to nurture yourself through this process, right? To nurture yourself through this process with good food. The Cancer, some of the Taurus likes with its sextiling, the Uranus North Node, good food, maybe watch something good on TV, take a shower, to nurture yourself through this and then not get mad at yourself. It's fine. Like, it's totally normal for us as humans to fall backwards, to forget things, to reject stuff emotionally, like totally normal. Not a big deal to just think about it, nurture yourself, and try not to get mad at yourself and other people throughout this process. Okay, that's going on. What else is the advice that I want to give you too? The other advice that I want to give you is back to the full moon, because the full moon, even though it's opposing Mercury in Cancer, the full moon is still in Capricorn here. What is Capricorn about? It is about making choices, sometimes the hard choice that needs to be made, in order to move forward here, getting the best result over time. So what that means to me is that not only is the advice now that I'm starting to get into with this is for you to slow down, not get mad at yourself, not get mad at other people, think about your feelings and more the subconscious issues, the feelings of lack of safety, insecurity, and comfort around this slower way of life, and nurture yourself through it. But that after you've nurtured yourself through it enough, to simply just choose and commit to do what needs to be done in order to move forward, which is go slow, and which is be more deliberate and more discerning, because that's what needs to be done at the end of the day in order to improve our situations here as we move forward. Okay, to nurture yourselves just enough until you just commit and say, well, gotta do what I gotta do. Sometimes you gotta do things in life you don't want to do, and to get really tough about that here, because I do believe that that is going to help. Not only do I think that that is going to help and that that is the advice, but I think that it could happen suddenly and unexpectedly and yield very good results. And that's because of the next alignment that I want to mention here related to this full moon in Capricorn. And it's going to be this full moon in Capricorn right here, making a trine to Uranus and the North Node in Taurus. Okay. And this to me is more, I guess I'm going to consider it a helpful thing, especially with the Sun and Mercury sextiling it. Why is this a good thing here? Well, they're both earth signs, okay, and the earth signs do tend to get along very well. Not only that, but the North Node is in Taurus, and Taurus is really all about this slower way of life that we're learning here. That's coming in. Uranus can indicate the sudden and unexpected, especially insights from the higher mind, and a trine can indicate things happening pretty quickly. And I should also note too, Taurus can bring stability, security, and a sense of calm. So what does that mean to me? It means to me that if you can do the thinking more about your emotional triggers and not engage in arguments with other people here, and not berate yourself and make yourself feel bad either, and nurture yourself through these triggers, and then just choose not to honor the triggers and do what needs to be done here to go about life in this slower, more deliberate way, I think it's going to help you suddenly and unexpectedly to get on board with the slower and more deliberate way of life, and to become more okay with it and more accepting of it, and to calm the emotions down so that they're not as crazy or detrimental perhaps as they might have been around this full moon, or in especially the days prior to it here as we move forward. Okay, so I think that's what I want to say there. Okay, but even though that is a big part of this full moon in Capricorn, the weird thing about this full moon in Capricorn is that there's another issue that comes up after this, like a two-parter that doesn't normally go on at full moons. So even though I'm going to give you that part of this full moon, there's something else that we need to note. And I'm going to erase the chart to kind of show and signify two separate issues going on here. And the next alignment that I want to mention is that this full moon in Capricorn right here is going to be making a conjunction to Pluto in the same sign of Capricorn as well, which does have to do, which is not necessarily the easiest thing, let's say that, because Pluto can also bring up triggers, fears, issues buried deep down in our subconscious that can also be quite hard too. Not only that, but Pluto can create issues, I should say, because Pluto wants permanent change. It wants permanent transformation and evolution. Pluto creates problems because it wants us to grow and evolve, not just halfway, not just a little bit, but all the way here with the moon making a conjunction to it. So what does that mean to me, I guess, to continue piecing it together? What this means to me is that at this moment in Capricorn, we are trying to move forward to do more new, better things in life, but we're feeling stuck and frustrated and upset and hurt and angry here. That's not very pleasant. And the reason why is us and not other people, because we emotionally are still rejecting a slower and more deliberate way of life because it doesn't feel safe and comfortable, that we need to think and talk ourselves through and nurture ourselves through until we just choose to not listen to the emotional triggers and just do what needs to be done, which is go slower and more stable and more secure here. Which is going to make us feel better. But even though we need to do that, and that's going to make us feel better, the minute that we start to feel better, right, about the emotional concerns, about the safety and the security, something still is off. The minute we feel better emotionally, we still feel off, or we have another sinking feeling within our emotions that doesn't feel right, that's kind of coming up in layers. That's hard, making it feel like we're still not ready to move forward more permanently in this different way of life, doing more things with relationships and money in the way we might like, which continues to maybe trigger us or make us feel a bit uneasy here and a bit uncomfortable. Okay, what now is coming up here? What now is coming up? I think once we deal with the emotional issues, well, a whole other set of issues basically is revealing itself once the emotions are taken care of. What are those next issues? The next issues to me are related to the next alignment here. We're going to have Venus in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces. Okay, and this is an uncomfortable alignment because it's a square here going on like right outside of this full moon in Capricorn. That's hard. And because Neptune and Gemini, Pisces and Gemini aren't always on the best of terms here. So this can be a little bit of a frustrating alignment. What is the frustration here? Well, Venus is in Gemini. Gemini is an air sign, right? It has to do with the intellect. It has to do with the mind, especially being correlated to Mercury. Not only is Gemini an air sign, it's a masculine sign because it's air, and the intellect is traditionally, I suppose, considered a bit masculine. Well, what is a challenge, right? Because this is a square, that's hard. That, say, an air sign, the intellect, or a masculine problem would have. Well, the challenge now that happens here is that there's a feeling of being trapped, right? Air signs want freedom, the freedom. There's a feeling of being trapped now, especially intellectually, and like we're having to close off, especially our mind off to other things here if we choose to go about life in a slower and more deliberate way, making us a bit confused here with the Neptune influence. Okay, so do you see the story so far? Maybe to continue bringing it together. We're in a new and better experience of life. We've got new habits and behaviors, and we want to move forward, bring more new relationships, money together, but we're still stuck and very frustrated, making us upset at ourselves and everyone else. And the reason why we're stuck is not because of other people. It's still because of us and something within our soul, deep, deep, deep in our subconscious, rejecting the slower, more deliberate way of life that we now need to go about because it doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel comfortable. And we need to address that. Take the time to think about the emotions, the lack of safety and comfort, and address that and nurture ourselves through it. And eventually just choose to not deal with it, to just choose to do the thing we need to do, which is go slower and more deliberate. And the minute we choose to just be slow and go more deliberate here about our lives and about our situation here, which is what needs to happen, our emotions start to feel better and they start to stabilize because now we have certainty, a certain path that we're committed to that needs to happen. But even though our emotions have now come into balance or come into alignment, now our intellect is out of sorts. Now intellectually, now our mind feels trapped by going slow and feels like it has to close off to other interesting things, ideas, possibilities here. That is also very, very frustrating here and uncomfortable, and making this a never-ending list of issues to have to deal with around this different experience of life that we're going into, which is really supposed to be a better one. Okay, That's really hard. And what is the solution to deal with that issue, right? Two separate issues here. What is the solution to deal with that? Well, I think the solution is to be patient a little bit. Neptune is also an indicator of patience. To be patient while we also get to the bottom and become more clear on what these other set of issues are that are dealing with, and also to be kind to ourselves with the Neptune influence and the Pisces influence. And I think also the advice too with the Sun and Mercury coming conjunct, which is a good alignment here in Cancer, to now start to trust and honor and follow the lead of the good emotions, to now trust, honor, and follow the lead of the good emotions that have now already started to get in line, because the emotions needed to be addressed first, to follow the lead of those here and the good emotions in order to more fully bring the head and the heart, the emotions and the intellect together to solidify more permanently this new way of life, which is slower, more deliberate, more secure, more self-reliant from here on out. Okay, and that's it. Excuse me. Okay, because that's it. That's all I'm going to mention in terms of the alignments. I'm just going to repeat that one more time before I move forward, even though I think I've done a fairly good job at bringing it together so far. So let's do that. What I think is going on here at this full moon in Capricorn is that we're in a new and better experience of life here with new beliefs, habits, thoughts, patterns, behaviors. And we want to move forward now on these new and better things to either bring more new and better relationships and money into our lives, or to build on top of the ones we already have and take them to the next level. But even though we want to do that and feel ready, we're still stuck and unable to fully progress them in the way that we might like, which is making us really frustrated, upset, and angry at ourselves and other people. But even though we're frustrated, upset, and angry at ourselves and other people, it has nothing to do with other people. Other people, they're just mirrors. It has nothing to do with other people. It actually has to do with something deep within ourselves and within us that's off. And what is off deep within ourselves is that a part of us, little teensy tiny, in the depths of our soul and our subconscious emotionally, is still rejecting these new experiences and the slower and more deliberate way of life that it requires, and is wanting to fall backwards into old habits and patterns of rushing things, forcing things, making things tumultuous and crazy. And the reason why a really small part of us deep in our soul is rejecting it is because being slow and doing things in a more deliberate way doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable. We don't know where that's going to get us and when it's going to get us there. That's really, really hard. And because that's hard, we need to address the emotions and not these other people and things, and not engage in arguments and fights, and go inwards to think and talk about our own emotions and get more clarity on that here, and to be kind to ourselves and nurture ourselves through that process, so that we can eventually get to a point of just choosing to do what needs to be done here, and to committing more firmly to that here, to going about life in a slower and more stable and secure way. And once we honor and nurture the emotions and commit to doing what needs to be done, we then start to feel emotionally better and at ease, because now we've got structure to make our emotion and clarity about our emotions to make them feel better. But the minute our emotions get into alignment now here about this slower and more stable and secure way of life that's more discerning, then our intellect starts to fall out of sorts. Then our intellect starts to not like it, starts to not like this different way of life now, this slower and more stable approach that we're accepting more and more. And our intellect and our mind starts to not like it, because now it feels trapping. Well, if I'm going to go slow and be more deliberate, then I can't do this, I can't do that, I have to close off to this thing here. That's also bringing frustrations, and also now making us feel uncomfortable and intense and unpleasant in a totally other way, because we can't fully accept this slower, more deliberate way of life until both parts of ourselves, the head and the heart, the emotions and the intellect, get together on board in the ways that it is that we need, which continues this like frustrating past like weeks here as we move forward. Okay, and the way now to deal with the intellect is, of course, to still give yourself time here, and to also think about the intellect and what the issue is there, but to eventually follow the lead of the good emotions that you now have, because those needed to be addressed first. To follow the lead of the good emotions here, to let your emotions point the way, so that you can keep on this slower, more stable, secure, self-reliant, discerning, deliberate path that we've really been on, especially since April of this year, but maybe even a little bit before that. Okay, and that's what I want to say there. Okay, And that's it. Because that's all I'm going to say now about the alignments, I'm just going to say a few other thoughts in a more conversational way to hopefully fill in some blanks here or give more clarity about what's going on. The first thing that I think I want to make clear and just say is that, and to make sure everyone gets this big point, we're in a new experience of life here that is supposed to be better. And we need to go about this new experience of life in a slower way that's more self-reliant and stable and secure here, and more discerning about who we engage with and what we engage with and when. Okay, so this is a key component of the current energy that's been happening for the past 6 months and will continue at least for another 6 months. Okay, you need to understand this. Why do you need to understand this, and why is this happening? Well, when you're doing something new that you've never done before, which is where I think we all now are, and when you don't know this new thing, you need to go slower. You need to go slower. You need to be a little bit more discerning about what you engage in here, so that you don't repeat old patterns and mistakes from the old things here, and so that you don't miss important steps in the building process and can make it solid. That's why. Another thing that I need to note too is that this isn't me. It's not just me trying to impose this on you. I believe that this is a natural law of the universe. This is a natural law of the universe, of the way things work, because Cancer and Capricorn have to do with natural laws of the universe and nature. And because Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac, where the solar eclipse was earlier this year. And the second sign of the zodiac is about sustaining new things that started in Aries season with the seed in Aries is about sustaining new things. And Taurus is a slower sign, being fixed earth. And earth signs are naturally slower because you're dealing with reality. And so are fixed signs because they're trying to figure stuff out and stick with one issue here. So you need to be very clear on this. This is what's going on in a new and better experience of life that recently arrived after overcoming years and decades of old stuff we didn't like. And we need to go about it in a slow, deliberate, self-reliant, discerning way so that we do not fall back in the old patterns and can do it right. And it's not me trying to force this on you and impose it on you. It's the way it needs to be. It's the way it's meant to be. It's a natural law of the universe. When you're building something, you don't know what you're doing. You have to go slow and be more discerning so that you can make it right here as you move forward. Okay. So I hope we're all clear on that. Okay. What else do I need to say about it? The other thing I need to say is that we have been making progress since especially April of this year, 2022, with the new moon solar eclipse in Taurus, to do that, to go about life in this slower, more discerning, more self-reliant, more stable and secure way. We have been making progress since then. And I think we've been doing pretty well at getting this through our heads and accepting this truth of the universe, of this natural law of how things need to go. But even though we have been making progress, it has not been enough progress. I think that's what you need. It has not been enough progress, or it is not completed. The process is not completed to become permanent, where we permanently can be slow, stable, secure, discerning in a more easy, natural way. We haven't made enough progress, and or it hasn't become permanent enough. And it needs to be, which is what this energy is all about with this full moon in Capricorn, saying it needs to be. You cannot move forward doing more new and better things until you get this through your head and heart, emotions, intellect, till you get this key component. This has to happen, in order to move forward. Why does this have to happen? Again, back in circles. Because if you're not slow, stable, secure, discerning, then we're going to bring more new things into our lives, which is going to happen very soon, okay? The new moon in Leo is going to be a big one. We're going to have Mars, Uranus conjunct the North Node. It's going to happen very soon. And if you don't get this through your head, then 2 weeks from now at the new moon in Leo, and a week after that, you're going to bring more new relationships, more new money situations in your life, and you're going to revert back to doing them fast, to not being discerning, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work because you're going to recreate old issues and old habits and scare yourself. So do you see this? The energy is saying, look, you have to get this here in order to move forward. Not only is the energy saying you have to get this, but the full moon in Capricorn is saying, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is not a joke. This is not a funny thing, right? The Capricorn is serious. This is not a drill. This is not a joke. This is serious. This isn't going away. This isn't going away. This slower, more discerning isn't going away. at least not for the next 6 months. I think it's probably going to be longer than that because the South Node's moving into Libra next year, which is a slower sign. But I'm at least going to give it 6 months because a bunch of crazy things are happening next March in Aries season. So I'm going to give it at least 6 months here. That's the only thing I can say for certain. It's going to be here for at least another 6 months that you got to do it for. Okay. Now that we hopefully are clear on that, I need to explain what exactly now are the issues preventing us from fully getting this, accepting this way of life here that I already kind of talked about. But again, to say them in a more conversational way, what are the issues? Well, the first set of issues that need to be addressed first are emotional issues. It does not feel safe and secure and comfortable to go slow, which is why we're rejecting it, not wanting to do it, or only do it halfway or a little bit when we need to be doing it a lot more. Not only is there this feeling of going slow and more stable and secure, doesn't feel safe, comfortable, all of that, but the second issue that arises is that once we feel safe, secure, and comfortable going slow, we feel trapped and like our freedom is being restricted and like we have to close off to other things, okay? So that's the next thing that you need to realize. We have to get it. What are the issues? Emotionally, doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel comfortable. And intellectually, it feels trapping and making us closed off. Okay, now, what does that look like in reality, right? Like to put some sentences together, in finite terms here. What does this look like, right? I don't feel safe, comfortable, secure going slow. And once I've committed to going slow and feeling safe and comfortable about it, then I feel trapped by it and like I have to close off. What does that look like? Well, let's do some examples. So let's talk about relationships here, because I think that a lot of you have either got into new romantic relationships, could be business partnerships as well, or want to get in new ones very, very, very soon, right? Like new moon in Leo 2 weeks from now and the week after that. How could this play out when it comes to new relationships? Well, at first, some of you could do this. There's a new relationship I'm in or that I want to get in. There's a part of me that realizes I need to go about this relationship and the courtship or whatever it is in a slower way. That's less tumultuous, that's less intertwined, where me and that person are self-reliant. There's a part of you that knows this. There's a part of you that gets this. But even though there's a part of you that knows and gets this with your current relationship or a new one you're about to start, there's another part of you that says, but it doesn't feel safe and it doesn't feel comfortable for me to go about a new relationship or a courtship in this slower way. Why doesn't it feel safe? Because if we're going about a courtship in a slower way, I don't know. Are we boyfriend, girlfriend, or what are we? Are we or are we not? Are we going to be a thing or are we not? The point of going slow is that you don't know yet. It doesn't feel safe to be in this limbo while we're going slow. We don't know. And then once you get it through your head, okay, fine. Once we get it through our head and choose, right? The solution is to choose. Once we get it through our head and choose, okay, I have to go slower and more deliberate here with this new relationship. And it's okay. I need to do it and I have to commit to it and it's okay. I'm going to be fine. I can feel safe without knowing. Then we get to the next level of us saying, but now I feel trapped. If I choose to go slow with some kind of courtship within a relationship here, which doesn't feel safe because I don't know where it's going to go. But if I choose to be okay with that, then I feel trapped because now I don't know, can I date other people? Right? Like if me and this person are going to go slow and like, I don't know what we are, like, can I or can I not date other people now? You know, now I feel kind of trapped. Like, I feel like I have to close myself off to other people while I'm waiting for this person that I really don't know how this is going to go and if they're going to come together here in order for us to move forward. So there's this feeling. And then there's also questions of intimacy. And I feel trapped sexually and I feel trapped intimately because I think I kind of like this person and I'm sexually attracted, but we got to go slow. And now I got to hold that back. So do you see how this is going? There's these kind of issues that are coming up. And if these issues aren't addressed now, and if you don't have the right safeguards and perspectives here, then what's going to happen is you're going to flub one or both of those issues. And instead of taking the relationship slowly, you're going to try to push it faster so that you can get to the end result so that you can feel safe, or you're not going to push it faster and you're going to have all these other people on the side, or have really difficulty containing some of your passion and excitement here. That's going to create big, big, big issues come October at the solar eclipse in Scorpio. So do you see this? How this can work? Let's use another example that's, let's say, is financial. So maybe another way that this can go is that maybe some of you are wanting to starting businesses or are starting new jobs that you're in some kind of leadership position about or something like that. Well, there's a part of you that could know, I need to go slowly in this new job or with this new business because I've never done this new position before. I've never done this new job. I've never built a business here, and I need to make sure it's going right. So some of you could say that I need to go slow with a new money-making opportunity, but then or in taking it to the next level. But as you start to go slow with this money-making opportunity, then what happens is you say, but now I don't feel safe. If I'm going slow with a new money-making opportunity, I don't have the money yet that I need. I don't have the promotion yet. I still have to work more towards it to bring it together. I don't feel safe. And when I don't have the money, I don't feel safe going slow because I need money. I need to make sure I'm going to be okay. So that can be a huge issue. And then once you deal with the emotional concern by basically nurturing yourself through it and choosing not to honor it, then you start to feel trapped. So once you've dealt with the issue around the money-making thing of, okay, I just need to go slow making money, even if it doesn't feel safe, and nurture my emotions through it and not let it get the best of you. Then you say, okay, I'm choosing to go slow making money, but now I feel trapped because as long as I am going slow, pursuing this one money-making opportunity or whatever, trying to build it, I can't be doing all these other jobs. I can't be spending all this other money. I can't be doing all these other things that I might be excited about doing because that's not going to help me build this thing. That's also the issue that needs to be worked through, that you have to work both out. You have to work both out here. Can't do one or the other, because if you do one or the other, they're going to trip you up. You have to work out both. You have to learn how to feel safe going slower, making money, even if the money's not coming in, and to keep yourself occupied here while you feel bored and trapped and stifled by this slower approach with the money and the business and all of that. Okay. Same to give you another example with like a health situation. Maybe some of you have health issues that you've been trying to work out for quite some time. Well, there's a part of you inside that could know, I have to go slow with my health. I have to go slow with my health in order to make sure it gets better and to keep on the right path. And because my health is making me go slow here, that's going on. And there's a part of you that knows it, but could be rejecting it here, because if you have to go slow to improve your health isn't better yet. You have to go slow to improve your health. It's still not better yet because you're still improving it and it's not where it needs to be. So there could be another part of you that's like, I don't feel safe because while it goes slow, anything could happen to my health. It could fall back XYZ. That could be very hard that you're going to have to work through and address, okay, about those emotional fears. And then once you address the emotional fears about the health and you say, okay, I guess I'm fine now. I'm feeling safer going slow with the health, even if it's going to take time because I've addressed those emotional concerns. Then you get a new issue that comes up, but now I feel trapped. Okay, I'm going to take the time to go slow to address the health. And I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to be safe and I'm going to nurture myself through this process. Well, then you say, but now I feel trapped because as long as I'm going slow with the health, I can't eat whatever I want to eat. I can't do whatever I want to do. I can't go to all these places. I can't do what other people would be doing. Here, I have to upset other people because I have my health I got to worry about. Then you feel trapped. And you have to work out both. This is not one or the other. This is not either or. You have to work out both issues, address both here, because if one of them is not addressed, it's going to create issues later on because you're going to fall backwards, rushing, moving too fast, missing certain steps here, or creating more stress for yourself about something that's really helpful that's going on that you don't need. That could be happening here. Oh, that's what's going on. What else could this be? Yeah, this could play out in a whole bunch of different ways. Maybe it's a home situation or a family situation. Maybe some of you are trying to renovate homes or improve family situations so that family understands you better. Well, that could also be a challenge. There's a part of you that knows I got to go slow. I got to go slow with the home renovation. I got to go slow with my family as I get them to understand me and my point of view better. But then you could say, but I don't feel safe Because as long as I'm going slow, building the home or working out the family issue, it hasn't been built. The home hasn't been built. The home hasn't been fixed. The family doesn't get me. I don't know if they're ever going to get me. Doesn't feel safe. And then the minute that you start to feel safe and address that concern, then you can say, now I feel trapped. Okay, now I feel safe going slow while the home is built, while the family adjusts, but now I feel trapped because while I am going slow, waiting for this thing to be built, waiting for my family to come around, I can't say certain things to my family that I might want to say. I can't live in certain parts of my home that I want to live in because they're being fixed, and now I feel trapped and upset. And you need, again, to address both, because if you don't address both, then you're going to have problems. You're going to revert backwards. You're going to stop the home renovation halfway. You're going to revert back to getting mad at the family when this happens. That both need to be addressed, okay? So I hope that's clear. And how do they both need to be addressed? Let me just emphasize that. The emotions need to be addressed, yes, by thinking and nurturing them and the lack of safety, but also by just committing and choosing to believe you're going to be safe, and to be slow anyways. There's something about committing and choosing with the moon in Capricorn, which opposes Cancer and therefore brings it into balance. So how do you resolve this? The emotions you resolve by just, yes, nurturing, thinking, and talking about them, to be aware of what they're there, but at the end of the day, choosing to put mind over matter and do what needs to be done in order to move forward. Because the emotions are going to find a weird sense of security in that certainty, okay? How do you deal with the intellect? You deal with the intellect here by also thinking about that and what the issue is, but by letting the good emotions lead. The good emotions lead here now about the slower way of life that you're starting to get, okay? That's how you do it. One more last thing I didn't mention too, with the moon in Capricorn making a quincunx to Venus and Gemini, another piece of advice too on how to resolve this is to find unique ways to bring the two together, right? Quincunxes are hard alignments. They're about two planets and two signs that don't see eye to eye because they function very differently. But even though they don't see eye to eye, they need to be done together, but they have to be done together in a unique way. So the other way to do it is to find unique solutions here that make you feel safe here with what you're doing, but at the same time, allow you to feel some semblance of freedom that you might like, even if it's not all it, okay? To do that, there's a need to, what's another way to put it, to feel free within constraints, free within confines. Here, there's a need to figure out that. How can I feel free and open within certain structures, confined boundaries of what needs to happen, okay? And to come up with unique solutions in order to make that occur, okay? So I hope that helps. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at your inside degrees here to give you someone else's opinion other than mine here on the current astrology. Okay, this full moon in Capricorn is at 21. I think it's at 21 degrees here. But I liked 20 Capricorn the best. To me, although I'm sure some of you will also resonate with 21 and 22, but I'm going to read Capricorn 20. Okay, what does this say? Sorry, these were not written by me. I don't know if I already said that. They're written by someone else named Elias Lonsdale here, who channeled the meanings for each of the degrees from Spirit. So let's start. Capricorn 20 says, we bear within us many past lives, each one complete, autonomous, and emitting its own subtle, special fragrance. There are points along the journey when we must stand together with this whole lineup of our previous selves and follow out the journey they were all leading to. This is a formidable task. There is a lot to live up to. It grants you authority and conviction, and it makes it very hard to get started. So what does this mean to me? It means to me that there is a lot still of baggage from our past. Even though we are in a new and better experience of life, and I do believe that here, especially since April, the past still lives within. Of course, deeply ingrained within us, our subconscious here, that is still around, whether we see it or not, that it influences, because the past doesn't just disappear. It's always around. That's still there. And because the past is still around and still there here, it can make it hard for us to get started or to continue on in different ways that are slower and more stable and more secure, which is what needs to happen here. Okay. And it says this, in order to get anywhere, like in order to move forward into new and better experiences, we must at times deny that we have these things from the past, deny that these things from the past happened, in order to move on. But they still live larger than life. Yeah. There is so much to accomplish, and at the center of the journey lies self-knowledge and the overriding determination to clear the karmic slate, to free up what has been trapped and bound, and to come to yourself afresh. Yeah, turn the darkest of hours into the brightest of breakthroughs. So I think what this is saying is that even though we are in a new and better experience of life, I think since April, there are still the echoes of the past, right? It's always going to be there, that are still around here. And we can see the past as a difficult thing. We can see the past as either a difficult thing to keep us stuck repeating the same habits and patterns over and over again because it's just so much a part of us, or we can see the past as an opportunity to choose something different, and to be more self-possessed, right? More self-possessed, more conscious, more aware, and to create something else here, distinctly different, and to not let these old things trip us up. And that's what needs to happen. We need to use what's happened from our past now as a reason, not subconsciously, but more consciously. We need to consciously own it to move on here in a different way. And if we choose to do that, to not see our past as hindrances because we've always done it this way, and this is the way things always were and used to work here. And if we can make a choice to do things differently, I think it's going to help. It's going to turn the darkest of hours, which, to be honest, I think like the last few decades were, into really bright breakthroughs here to help us move forward. And we're going to be cosmically supported in order to do it. Okay. You know, I think that's all I have to say. I even look at Capricorn 21, which is the actual degree. It's also about the past, heavily drawn back in the past. So we're trying to break old habits and patterns here from the past because they're still around, whether you see them or not. And you got to do it. You got to do it. And instead of using the past as an excuse, you got to start to see it as a reason to break free, to move forward, to liberate. I don't know if liberate's the word with some of this other stuff, but to move on in a different way here. Because if you can do it, it's going to be very good. Okay. Yeah, I do like Capricorn 22. It says, death is a force that brings into earth something from beyond, and this something is the X factor in the human equation. Your own previous deaths as major signposts, which hold you to your noblest and most surrendered ways of being. Mortality is spoken. Immortality arises from the ashes. A threshold awareness that hugs the edge between the worlds and bows before a God who presides over the living and the dead. You stride across worlds, in tune with myriad frequencies, and are quite able to make way for the unknown, the infinite, the other side of life, a fiercely held intention to bow before what truly is and fall for nothing less, no matter how attractive or appealing. So if we cannot get stuck in our past habits and be conscious of them and not use them to justify bad behaviors and move, or to indulge in that, and as an opportunity to move forward in a different way, I think that's really going to help us step into something new and different here. The unknown, the infinite, the other side of life, that's actually going to be better and more of what we need to move on. Okay. And I think that's it. Okay. We got to stop repeating the past at some point and move on in a different way. And now I think is the time. And in order to stop repeating the past, sometimes it takes effort and conscious effort to make sure that doesn't happen here in order to move forward. But there's an opportunity to do it. And if you do it, I think a lot of good things are going to be on the other side. Now, your card, let's pull that for this time period, is the Six of Cups reversed. How Cancer is that? And we've got the Two of Cups reversed here at the bottom of the deck. Speaking of the past, relationships from the past or old relationship patterns. What do I want to say about this? Man, we got the Ten of Pentacles at the bottom, which I see is like a very Capricorn card for some reason. Oh man, what do I want to say? Something about relationships from the past and old relationship patterns. I don't know if there's anything in anything else. Sorry, I'm trying to, like, what is different? What is different that I can add? There's definitely a need to not repeat old relationship patterns and to do either old relationships in a distinctly different way here, or to do new relationships in a distinctly different way than which you've been doing them. Okay. That needs to happen, but I think I've already made that clear. Another thing is arguments. Maybe I need to address that because there is an argumentative energy going on with the full moon square Chiron, which is stationing retrograde in Aries here with the Venus square Neptune. So maybe I need to make a note about that. The note here is that there could be arguments with relationships at this time, and to not engage in those arguments with relationships. It doesn't mean not speak your truth. You know, you need to speak your truth and you need to say what needs to be said, but it means to not let those spiral out of control and to get the best of you and to kind of cut them off at a certain point, you know, with the 10 of Pentacles here and this full moon in Capricorn influence, because Capricorn doesn't like the drama. So I think that maybe that's what I need to say. Some of you could definitely be getting in arguments with other people at this time. Say your piece and what you need to say, and then don't engage anymore. And then either don't engage anymore. If some of you can't, like, not engage, you're like, no, I have to engage. Then when you do engage in a Capricorn kind of way that's serious, that has intention, that has integrity here, and that takes responsible for what you need to be responsible for, but that also is more disciplined about the next steps and that needs to happen. Because a lot of times when there's not intention and integrity here, these arguments can get out of control. So some of you can get in arguments about things from the past or people from the past, because I do think a lot of you want to move these relationships forward in a different way. Either don't engage in arguments, or if you have to engage, say what you need to say, and then don't let them linger, and get a clear intention on how to move these things forward so that they don't get out of hand here. Because the real issue, if I can be honest, does not look like it's with a relationship. The real issue is inward. Because when we're strong as individuals, right, and when we're good, we don't need other people to validate us, and we don't need other people to respond in a certain way. You know, when we are confident in ourselves and in our needs and in our values and in the way that we're going about life, it doesn't matter what other people do, because I know I'm doing the right thing, you know. If I'm doing what's right for me with integrity and you get mad that I'm going slow, or that what I believe is different than you believe, it's not my issue, because I know, right? So do you see what's going on here? Don't engage in arguments, or if you need to engage, say what you need to say, and then be very firm about what needs to happen so that these things don't spiral downwards. And if you address the emotional issues first, which is really the stem of where these arguments are, you're either not going to get into arguments, or the arguments are going to bother you less. Like, they're going to bother you less. Because we're not, like, the lesson is not really to avoid arguments, even though maybe that's some of the way I've interpreted it. The lesson, especially with like Jupiter and Aries, the lesson is not to avoid conflict. Like, sometimes we need to have a conflict with someone. The lesson is to just be okay with your truth, you know, to be okay and to get right with you. And if you're right with you, you don't care if you get in an argument or how that argument necessarily plays out, because you know you've got your back and you know you're going to be okay and all of that. And I just think really strong messages there. And we've got the Three of Swords at the bottom of the deck, which is like, stop hurting yourselves for other people and stop putting other people's opinions over your own, especially with the Aries and Taurus influence, which are a little more self-centered, which is a good thing, because that's what we need to be right now. So I hope that helps some of you. I'm trying to think if I have anything more insightful about relationships, but I think this is it. Some of you may have conflicts with relationships. Either don't engage, or if you do engage, say what you need to say, and then toughen up, form a thicker skin here, and believe more in yourself and get yourself right. Because if you're right, you're not going to be bothered by these petty arguments. You're just going to be unfazed, because you are right with you And that's where good relationships start. Good relationships start by you being right with you first and not looking for other people to validate you, support you, want what you want. No, it starts within. If you deal with the emotional and intellectual concerns about life, and then you're going to be fine. Because what might be happening, because I feel like there's something I'm missing about the relationships here. What might be happening is that some of you could be connecting with people who are forcing you to go slower, right? You could be connecting with a person, it doesn't matter, a situation that's forcing you to go slow here and be more deliberate and make more firm decisions that are true to your needs and values. And some of you could be mad at that thing. Oh, well, this person is taking this relationship really freaking slow and it's annoying, or this business contact won't get back to me. Some of you could perceive it as outside you. It's their thing. But what you need to realize is that slow influence, if that person is going slow or thing, is a good thing, because that's what needs to happen right now. And you need to not get mad at the thing that's going slow and deal with why you're so triggered about things going slow when they need to be slow, and work that out. Or vice versa. If you're not connecting with someone or something and they're going slow and you're frustrated and mad at them because you're perceiving slowness as outside of you instead of something inside, that's the issue that needs to be worked out and happening. And what could happen is you could be the slow force. You could be the slow force in someone's life, which is really the healthy force at this time. And then they could be mad at you. You're going too slow. You're being too picky. You're being too picky, right? Like, that's another thing. The deliberateness is key. You're being too picky. Why are you being too picky about these things? And like, that could be hard for you. And you also need to realize that like, you being slow is a healthier way to go, and that there's nothing wrong with that, and that the other people have triggers that they need to deal with, and to let them deal with the triggers and to not engage in like their issues while they figure that out, or to be more firm so that they don't drag you into their concern about something you're doing right. So be aware of this potential arguments when it comes to people slowing you down and being a little bit more picky, or you slowing down and being, do not engage here, because the issue is within, or with the other person resisting the slowness, and that needs to be addressed first. And once that is addressed first here about that, and you come to terms with that yourself, then it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, because you're fine here as you move forward. Okay. And I think that's all I'm going to say. I hope that made sense. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you make the best of this energy. It does feel a little bit challenging here, and I'll talk to you on the next video 2 weeks from now. At the new moon in Leo, which will be interesting. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, check out my website, wondergirlastrology.com for more videos, and I will see you on the next one.